What if DC had all the same rights issues as Marvel and made a great cinematic universe out of it? Well, that's something I discussed in 2 previous videos, and this will be the 3rd and final part to close out the saga. I highly recommend watching the first 2 parts before this one for either a refresher, or if you haven't seen them, then you definitely need that context. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and become a member in the Noble tier above for early access to videos, and in the King tier for a special shout out. Thanks to these members for the extra support. Part 2 ended with the Flashpoint Paradox, a movie released in 2016. Later that year, the 3rd Outsiders series would release, Black Lightning. Black Lightning has 2 seasons, each focusing on Jefferson Pierce as a hero, divorced father to young girls, and a teacher. In season 1, he fights Tobias Whale, and in season 2, he fights Gravedigger. Zatanna will be a smaller, more focused movie introducing a new hero, taking place on Timeline Prime. The movie reveals the secret world of magic headlined by the hero Giovanni Zatara. Zatanna, his daughter, was raised in the ways of backward-speaking magic from birth, despite protests from her mother, Cindella. Now in her 30s, Zatanna is thrust into the center of magical heroism as her father is killed by a villain named Felix Faust, who Zatanna eventually defeats. In an end credit scene, Zatanna is approached by Dr. Fate, telling her to seek out Aquaman's help. 2017 begins with Firestorm, the next Netflix show and certainly the least beloved one. Firestorm has 2 seasons following Ronnie Raymond and Martin Stein as they combine into Firestorm and face off against Multiplex in season 1 and Plastique in season 2. Justice Society Volume 2 continues Timeline B, diving deeper into the JSA's history. Set months after Volume 1, the team faces off against the Black Dragon Society, a Japanese mafia led by the Dragon King. They're aided by Alan Scott, who has been missing for years, along with his children, Obsidian and Jade. After they defeat the Black Dragon, Alan warns of a coming threat named Gog, revealed to him by his magical lantern. Alan leads a group into the Tower of Fate to find Dr. Fate, while Jay Garrick and Mr. Terrific stay behind, both suspicious of Alan's sudden return. Investigating Alan's home, the 2 of them uncover signs of an old JSA enemy. At the tower, Alan and his children betray the team, steal the Heart of Darkness, the gemstone prison of Eclipso, and unleash him. There is no Gog. Spectre reveals Eclipso was once his predecessor as the spirit of vengeance to God. Unbeknownst to Obsidian and Jade, Alan's mind has been replaced by the Ultra Humanite, a villain obsessed with the JSA's destruction. Eclipso turns heroes against each other, and Dr. Fate restores Alan's mind, forcing Ultra Humanite into a white gorilla body that he had as backup. Eclipso strips the Spectre's power from Jim Corrigan and takes it for himself, taking over the JSA and then betraying Ultra Humanite. With both Spectre's and Eclipso's powers, he begins plunging the world into eternal darkness. Stargirl's staff is revealed to be the embodiment of light, created to combat Eclipso's shadow. With help from Jade's light and Obsidian's power to absorb darkness, Courtney weakens Eclipso. She lands the final blow, killing him. The Spectre's power returns to Corrigan, who vanishes mysteriously. Obsidian, overwhelmed by absorbing all the darkness, dies in a tragic sacrifice. The JSA is left mourning, but the world is saved from the edge of eternal night. Following the events of Flashpoint, Superman was retconned into the new timeline, and DC now has the rights to him. Superman Rebirth opens with a montage echoing Superman and Lois, showing Clark's journey sent to Earth, raised in the 80s and 90s, becoming Superman in the year 2005, battling classic villains, meeting and marrying Lois, and then at the exact same time as the events of Justice League in 2012, Doomsday arrives to Earth. With Earth's other heroes occupied, Superman fights alone, killing the monster but dying in the process. In this altered timeline, Superman was the first hero of this world, but died before the Justice League formed. Unknown to the public, he was revived shortly after, but he lost his powers. Clark trusted the world's safety to the other heroes and the formation of the Justice League, while living a normal life until now. Now in 2016, 4 years later, Superman is back, or so it seems. It'll be revealed that the very end of Justice League Doom didn't happen in this new timeline. Hal never left, and neither did John. While Aquaman and Flash are busy, the Justice League welcomes Superman back, but Clark, cradling his newborn son, watches the news in shock. He never regained his powers. This Superman is an imposter sent by Mongol to infiltrate Earth's heroes. That's something we'll learn later. Determined to stop him, Clark journeys to the Fortress of Solitude. The imposter attacks, but the fortress intervenes, aiding Clark. Knowing he must act, Clark undergoes a dangerous Kryptonian procedure with a 50% survival rate to restore his powers. He survives, and now Superman is actually back. Confronting this imposter, Clark tears away parts of his skin, revealing robotics. This is Cyborg Superman. The cyborg escapes, warning of a greater threat. Soon, he manipulates the Justice League into turning against the real Superman. That bigger threat arrives as Mongol's massive warship looms over Coast City. Superman races ahead of the League to confront him. The Green Lanterns Storms and Star Sapphire join, but they fail to prevent Coast City's destruction. Mongol deploys machines to convert the area into a planet-sized engine for his new war world. Metamorpho is put out of commission as he is forced to absorb the deadly radiation, allowing the others to rejoin the fight. While the League dismantles the engine, Superman battles Mongol, and Hal faces Cyborg Superman in a vengeful clash. Superman defeats Mongol and tries to stop Hal, but he fails. Hal kills Cyborg Superman, the world is saved, but Coast City is gone, and Hal Jordan loses it. He is completely overtaken by Parallax. This will be followed up on in the next Justice League. During the movie, Lois would struggle with Clark's return to superhero life and the dangers that it brings, balancing her fears as a wife and a mother with her role as a reporter covering the destruction. Fans would complain that the movie would feel more like a Justice League movie than a solo Superman adventure, but that's the deal. DC allows their heroes in Superman movies, while Sony allows Superman to be in the DCU movies. Still in 2017, the Netflix shows would finally cross over with The Outsiders, a one-season TV show featuring the four main heroes as they team up to fight a common threat. An evil organization which appeared in Black Lightning and Firestorm called the 100th, led by the director. Then DC will further explore the Wildstorm side of the DC universe after a few of them appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with The Authority. Initially meant to be a movie, The Authority was proposed by some DC execs as a great replacement for the Trinity. Apollo is Superman, Midnighter is Batman, and Jenny Sparks is Wonder Woman. The main producer of the DCEU fought against this, and The Authority was changed into a TV show. The Authority partially aired in IMAX cinemas despite being just god-awful. The series adapts the stories from the comics but does such a terrible job at it, killing the Authority franchise and ending after one season. After appearing as an antagonist in Atom Season 2, Peacemaker gets his own two-season spin-off show where he faces off against the White Dragon in Season 1 and then Snowflame in Season 2. Doom Patrol is a 3-season-long show which can be very similar to the real-world TV show, but with Cyborg replaced by Mento, who acts as the team's resident enthusiastic superhero trying to push the others to be actual superheroes, ultimately also being a love interest for Rita, otherwise the same as the real-world show, with changes whenever there needs to be one. Aquaman the Drowning takes the Aquaman franchise in a completely new direction, as the new director brings with him a far more comedic and colorful tone. 50,000 years ago, Atlantis, once the world's first ever civilization, was cursed by its first king, Atlan, who became a lord of chaos known as the Dead King, with a curse known as the Drowning, casting Atlantis beneath the sea. Over millennia, Atlanteans adapted to the ocean's depths. Now, as the curse's 50,000 year limit ends, Atlantis is set to rise again. This awakens King Atlan, who sets out to do another curse, this time dooming Atlantis completely. Orm's more lenient sentence comes to an end and he is let out from prison, but is exiled from Atlantis. Aquaman goes to see him out in the outskirts of the city, but they are both attacked by the Dead King. Atlan takes his trident right back from Arthur and defeats the two brothers in battle. Arthur and Orm are only saved by a portal created by Zatanna. Zatanna was contacted by Dr. Fate from Timeline B, who was told by his own Lord of Order, Nabu, about the chaos that Atlan can unleash upon the world and that they'll need Aquaman. Having gotten his trident back, the Dead King scours the seven seas, awakening another lieutenant in his army each time and bestowing upon them one of the 7 ancient Atlantean weapons he created. Using Aquaman, Zatanna is able to contact this timeline's Lord of Order, Aquaman's ancestor Orion, who tells him the entire backstory and then gives him his own personal ancient weapon, a spear. Zatanna not being able to follow, Aquaman and Orm return to Atlantis to fortify its defenses, doing so in time for the Dead King to appear with his 7 minions, each wielding a different weapon. Atlan uses his trident to distract Atlantis with a few krakens as each lieutenant plants their weapon in the ground and begins the curse around Atlantis. Using his spear to connect again to ocean life, Arthur sends his own army of fish, allowing for himself, Mera, Calder, Orm, and other Atlanteans to fight the lieutenants head on. Atlan reveals he needs Aquaman's spear to complete the curse. In a vicious duel, Atlan uses the weapon Arthur has been using for years to pierce Arthur's arm, damaging it beyond repair. Still, Aquaman fights fiercely to not give the spear to Atlan, cursing Orion for giving it to him at all. Eventually, Arthur does realize why he was given the spear. Arthur plunges his spear into the ground and makes his own curse, one that accelerates the undoing of the initial curse and raises Atlantis back to the surface. This also breaks one side of the spear, making it look a bit more like a harpoon. Once they arrive at the surface, Atlan is disoriented enough by not being underwater to allow Aquaman to land the killing blow with the Spear of Orion, his trident disappearing with him. The other lieutenants then fade away as well, with their weapons in tow. With Atlan gone, Atlantis must adapt to its new life above the waves. Arthur has his hand amputated and replaced with the tip of a spear. Orm is pardoned for his role in the victory and welcomed back as an actual citizen of Atlantis, something that he accepts. Mera reveals that she is pregnant. Moving on to 2018, Shazam will tell the story of Shazam in this timeline as he was recently added back in. It's similar to the real-world movie, but it will also take inspiration from the classic version of the character, while also switching some actors around because I think Jack Dylan Grazer fits better as Billy Batson. We'd learn about his origin story of losing his parents and being taken in by his uncle, Dudley. Dudley runs a foster family that includes Mary Bromfield and Freddie Freeman. Billy is then chosen by the Wizard to become the new champion of Shazam. The story of the movie, however, is kicked off by Dr. Savannah finding out about the legend of Black Adam and partnering himself with archaeologist Adriana Tomas to unearth his Kandaki tomb. This then becomes Shazam's problem as Black Adam goes directly after the other champion of Shazam. Billy is overwhelmed initially, but as Dr. Savannah's intentions are revealed to be to cause the two champions to kill each other and then allow himself to take their power, Billy and Adam form a truce to stop Savannah. They do, but Adam turns on Shazam and takes over the country of Kahndaq. Mary and Freddy will be teased to have gotten powers for themselves. Justice League Zero Hour unites the Justice League and Justice Society in the event that everything has been building towards, but the main character is actually Hal Jordan, or rather Parallax. Taking place right after Superman Rebirth, Hal is now overtaken by Parallax. With Parallax's power, Hal tries to recreate Coast City to no avail. Frustrated, he attacks the Justice League. The battle is then interrupted by a second Parallax, who tells Hal to come with him. Speaking outside of time, the second Parallax is revealed to be able to time travel, the only survivor of the original timeline. In that timeline, Parallax took control of a time traveler known as Wave Rider. After doing so, he deliberately removed what would be some of his biggest threats, or maybe parts of the strongest units, to other timelines, so that the Prime timeline would be weakened against him. This was meant to work, but Barry Allen ruined everything when he caused the Flashpoint. Together, they conclude that this was a result of the timeline trying to correct itself, something that it'll always do. The other Parallax is also being constantly chased by time wraiths, demonic enforcers of the timeline. OG Parallax gives new Parallax his time travel abilities before being found and destroyed by the time wraiths. Parallax decides to destroy the timeline entirely to prevent the timeline from correcting itself. The Justice League are met by Wave Rider and the Flash. Wave Rider is a genius from the future named Michael Carter who infused himself with chrono energy that allowed him to time travel. He returned to this time as it was, anachronistically, alerted to him at the end of time. He brings the Justice League together, including the reserve members and the recently added new recruits, to tell them where to go. Oa. Parallax also travels to Oa, arriving way before the Justice League. He slaughters the Green Lanterns and the Guardians themselves before absorbing the central power battery, leaving the remaining Green Lanterns on their final charge. Through the Spectre's simultaneous explanation to the heroes of Timeline B, we learn that that timeline was never a part of the Prime timeline. The Justice Society of America was always in its own timeline. The Guardians knew that the full power of the willpower emotional spectrum can be used in tandem with time travel abilities to destroy the timeline, so they took a portion of it and sent it to another timeline, and that came to be known as the Starheart, found eventually by Alan Scott. When Parallax finds this out, he realizes it's the last part of the willpower energy he needs to accomplish his plan. To claim it, Parallax merges timelines A and B, causing chaos across reality. The timelines don't quite fit together, so they kind of glitch into each other. On Earth, the remaining heroes race to destroy the Starheart before Parallax could take it. With the sources of the energy coming from Earth and Oa, the heroes are glitched in and out of these two locations, some JSA members being sent to Oa, and some of the Justice Leaguers who have arrived being sent back to Earth. They do manage to destroy the Starheart, but it's to no avail. Alan's very DNA was, once, infected with the Starheart energy, which was inherited by his daughter Jade, which is why she has those powers. Parallax arrives, kills her, and absorbs her power. Now wielding the combined might of willpower, fear, and Wave Rider's connection to the timeline, Parallax begins erasing all reality. At the last moment, a few key players glitch back to Earth and then attempt to appeal to Hal's humanity. His willpower briefly overpowers Parallax, allowing him to use his power to send Earth to the vanishing point, a refuge at the end of time. In retaliation, Parallax expels Hal's soul, killing him while using his body as a husk. Parallax then destroys timelines A and B, with Earth stuck at the end of time with a few heroes from timelines A and B on them, but the heroes who weren't there and were on Oa Saga are all dead. With no clear way home or fixing the timeline, the road to saving the universe has just begun. Hawk and Dove will be a 2-season TV show featuring Hank Hall and Dawn Granger as street-level vigilantes and lovers. The show lasts 2 seasons and these characters are then never seen again. In between the 2 finales, there are 2 more movies released, the first of which is called Hawkman and Hawkgirl, which is pretty straightforward and simple, following the 2 Hawks facing off against Bythe, a mercenary from Thanagar, who they eventually defeat, along the way falling in love. The movie ends with the reveal that this all happened during the 0 hour. The movie officially ends when Hawkgirl is glitched off-world, while Hawkman remains, being saved when Earth is sent to the vanishing point. Now in 2019, Blue Beetle introduces a hero erased from history by timeline changes. In Timeline D, archaeologist Dan Garrett found a magical scarab in the 1960s and became the first Blue Beetle. After his death, the scarab passed to his mentee Ted Kord, who couldn't unlock its power but still fought crime in the 1990s before then mysteriously vanishing. In the present, the scarab is stored by Kord Industries, who siphoned some of its energy to develop weapons. Company employee Alberto Reyes, fearing its misuse, steals the scarab, risking his life, job, and family. Then, when the scarab bonds with his teenage son, Jaime Reyes, turns him into the next Blue Beetle. As Jaime learns to use his powers, Kord's current CEO, Ted's uncle Jarvis, becomes obsessed with reclaiming the artifact. He tracks the Reyes family down, kills Alberto, and forces Jaime to embrace his role as a hero. Jarvis completes his own weaponized suit, dubbing himself the Silver Scarab. In a climactic battle, Jaime defeats him, proving himself worthy of the Blue Beetle legacy. Before dying, Jarvis hints that Ted Kord is still alive somewhere. Then, in the post-credit scene, the Flash vibrates into this timeline and approaches Jaime, hinting at the hero's larger role in the coming fight. As we reach the endgame equivalent, DC would reveal that the collection of movies made up until this point would be titled the Hypertime Saga and end with Justice League Final Night. Parallax has won, having created the Parallax-verse, the one true timeline, while Earth is stranded at the vanishing point, but time is running out for them as the handful of heroes left don't really know what to do. Hope returns through Hal Jordan, whose soul manifests in the afterlife. He's guided by the current Spectre, Jim Corrigan, to becoming the new Spectre, as Corrigan explains that the Spectre must always have a host and his time has ended. Hal is destined to take his place. After a final act of guidance, Corrigan's soul ascends to heaven, leaving Hal as the new Spectre. The remaining heroes search for a way to restore reality and learn from Wave Rider that there's another untouched branch, Timeline D, that was hidden from Parallax, where the scarab-wielding hero Blue Beetle exists. The scarab's alien tech magic mix is a natural counter to Parallax's fear-based power. Wave Rider and Flash putting their powers together, they're able to send Barry to Timeline D, where he recruits Jaime. Jaime reluctantly agrees to join, knowing the stakes. Act 2 unites the 2 threads. Hal goes to the vanishing point and guides the heroes on a new plan, as they are meant to breach the Parallax verse. There, they must merge timelines A, B, D, and the Parallax verse into one cohesive reality, so that they could cut Parallax off from his empire. As they breach the Parallax verse, Wave Rider is able to hold Parallax off long enough so that Barry Allen can merge the timelines together. However, this costs the lives of both Wave Rider, who dies at the hands of Parallax, and Barry Allen, who, when he uses the full force of the Speed Force, he successfully merges the timelines together into a world that they're going to call Earth 1 from now on, as the universe moves away from timelines and into universes. Barry Allen fades away into the Speed Force, and the Wave Rider fades away as well, as he mentions that this timeline should have a new version of Mike Carter, hinting at Booster Gold. But now the entire Justice League is together, and Parallax is weakened. Frustrated with the timeline fixing itself yet again, Parallax decides he doesn't care anymore, he's going to destroy the sun. First, he needs to kill the Justice League. It'll be revealed that Parallax has an entire Yellow Lantern Corps. The Justice League goes to war with this corps. Parallax's immense power does still prove to be a bit too much. That is until the entire Star Sapphire and Blue Lantern Corps show up, and a few members of the Justice League are given their own temporary rings. Temporarily using a Green Lantern ring, Green Arrow shoots a construct right into Parallax's chest, allowing for the Spectre, Hal Jordan, to fuse with Parallax so that his Spectre spirit can cast out Parallax and he can take his body back. Instead, the Spectre spirit and Parallax kill each other, and Hal Jordan's body does not survive. Hal takes his last breath in front of the other heroes, in a timeline finally rid of Parallax. However, it is also now rid of the Spectre, which might have unforeseen consequences, but not here. Without Parallax there to power them, the Yellow Lantern Corps lose their rings, and the timeline is officially merged. Kid Flash steps up as the new Flash, while Hal Jordan's ring flies off to find a new host. Mr. Terrific creates a technology that detects the fact that this Earth is only one in a vast multiverse, and new dangers are already stirring. The next chapter will focus on that, the actual multiverse, other universes rather than other timelines, and maybe a few of those universes contain Wonder Woman, Batman, and whoever else needs to be merged into one cohesive final DC universe in Crisis on Infinite Earths. But before that, the end of the Hypertime Saga comes with one final movie, the epilogue, which is Superman Legacy. Superman now cementing himself as the world's greatest hero in this new timeline. The villain of this movie will be Brainiac, which is marketed as a heroic version of Brainiac. He'd come to Earth to study Superman as the last Kryptonian, along the way teaching Superman more about his heritage. Amanda Waller represents the government, while Mr. Terrific represents the JSA, as they keep a watchful eye on Brainiac, and with Waller being suspicious of Brainiac and Superman working together, Brainiac eventually turns on Superman and is revealed to be just as villainous as he always is. But Superman will eventually defeat him. However, in a post-credit scene, Brainiac will unveil Superman's identity to the world, through which they bring back the iconic role of J.K. Simmons as Perry White from the 2000s Raimi Superman trilogy. This will then lead into a multiversal crossover movie in the next Superman movie, crossing over with the Raimi trilogy and also the Zack Snyder duology from the 2010s. But those are a couple little looks into what this universe's next chapter would look like, all leading into a multiversal Crisis on Infinite Earths event. But that's not the focus of this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about the Hypertime Saga, what you would change, and what you think the universe would look like going forward outside of what I already mentioned. Thanks so much for watching.